Hello, in this video I will show you how to balance a chemical equation. In this concept there are two important rules. The first one is that the number of atoms should be same on each side of the chemical equation. The second one is that you can only change the coefficients that are the numbers in front of the atoms, not the subscripts that are the numbers in the formula. Let's balance this equation based on these rules. In the reactant side, there are 1 carbon atom, 4 hydrogen atoms, and 2 oxygen atoms. In the product side, 1 carbon atom again, 2 hydrogen atoms, and 3 oxygen atoms. Here it seems that number of the carbon atoms are equal. It means that they are balanced. What about hydrogen? In the reactant side there are 4 hydrogen atoms, but in the product side there are 2 hydrogen atoms. So to balance them, we can start with writing 2 as a coefficient of water molecule. 2 times 2 makes 4 hydrogens, and it equals the number of the hydrogens in the reactant side. Now the number of hydrogen atoms are equal. Last one is oxygen. Before it, I want to emphasize something. This coefficient 2 will affect the number of oxygen also. 2 times 1 makes 2 oxygens in this part and 2 oxygens in carbon dioxide. In total, 4 oxygen atoms in product side. Right now we can balance oxygen atoms by using 2 as a coefficient of oxygen molecule. Here 2 times 2 makes 4 oxygen atoms in the reactant side, and finally the reaction is balanced. This is our second example. In the reactant side there are 3 carbon atoms, but in the product side there is just 1. So you can write 3 as a coefficient of carbon dioxide. Now carbon atoms are balanced and the turn is for hydrogen. In the reactant side there are 8 hydrogen atoms, but in the product side there are 2. Now you can write 4 as a coefficient of water molecule, and when you multiply 4 with 2 you will get 8 hydrogen atoms. The last one is oxygen. In the reactant side there are 2 oxygen atoms, but in the product side there are 6 times 4 and makes 10 oxygen atoms. So you can write 5 as a coefficient of oxygen molecule, because you will get 10 oxygen atoms in the reactant side. Right now your reaction is balanced. This is our third example. 2 nitrogen atoms in the reactant side. So I will write here 2 as a coefficient and balance the number of the nitrogen atoms. There are 6 hydrogen atoms in the product side, so I will write 3 as a coefficient of hydrogen, because I will get 6 hydrogen atoms in the reactant side too. Now this reaction is balanced too. In the reactant side I have 8 sulfur atoms, so I will write 8 as a coefficient to balance the number of the sulfur atoms. And then I will count the number of the oxygens. 16 oxygens in the product side. So I will write 8 as a coefficient of oxygen molecule and get 16 oxygen atoms too. And this reaction is balanced too. This is our fifth example. In the reactor side, there is one iron atom, but in the product side, there are 3 iron atoms. So I will write 3 as a coefficient of iron and balance number of the iron atoms. And we can balance oxygen atoms. There are 4 oxygen atoms in the product side, but 1 in the reactant side. So I will write 4 as a coefficient of water. Here I can count the number of the hydrogens and get 8 hydrogen atoms in the reactant side. To balance the hydrogens, I will write 4 as a coefficient of hydrogen. And right now, this reaction is balanced too.